It's Paint TV. I'm Andrew Dwyer, publisher of Your American Painting Contractor. Today we're talking about caulks and sealants, patching and spackling. It's all brought to you, sponsored today by DAP.
Doug Imhoff Fine Residential Painting Company here in Denver, Colorado. Yeah, surface prep is where it all begins. The way I put it, surface prep is everything that happens before you get wet. But without surface prep, you're in the DIY territory. Surface prep is where a good paint job begins. In my cartoon bubble, the difference between a sealant and a caulk, a sealant is meant to prevent moisture or water from penetrating into something or behind something. So you would seal a brick window opening next to the painted wood brick molding. You'd put a sealant in there. You wouldn't necessarily put a caulk in there. Caulk, in my way of thinking, is more aesthetic. You would caulk all of the seams in 3 or 4 or 5 component crown molding. If you don't caulk all of those seams, it looks like a hack job. So a premium product is going to go a lot farther than a cheap product in the performance underneath the paint. It's going to last longer, it's going to have better flexibility, it's going to shrink less as it's drying. All of those things are important, so it's always worth the extra couple of bucks per tube to go with something that is going to take less time to apply, cause you fewer callbacks in the future, last longer, perform better, be more durable.
My name's Eric. I work with Imhoff Fine Residential Painting, and I'm a project manager. Caulk I would use on trim, baseboards, if you're feeling a crack in the ceiling. Sealant I would use in any area where you're going to have moisture, so bathrooms, tile, stuff like that. My recent experience with DAP products, or the DAP siliconized latex caulk and acrylic, it's very smooth, it's really paintable, it doesn't bleed through the paint, you don't have to go over it multiple times, and it glides and fills all cracks really well, and it holds its elasticity. This product, Alex Ultra, it's a anti-shrink premium sealant. I mean, you could typically use just latex, like you can use this anywhere. In areas where you have mold or mildew worries or crown molding, ceilings. With sealant, contraction is going to be highly important. You want something that's not going to shrink because of the fact that you don't want water to penetrate through those gaps. The Flex Sealant is a good product to use because of its flexibility. It expands in the gaps and it fills those gaps completely rather than, shrinking and contracting. When you spread that bead, the web that it creates to those, those two surfaces, it stays webbed and it stays sealed. So when I'm deciding whether I'm going to use a patch or spackle, it's typically based on the amount of time it's going to take for that surface to dry or be ready to be painted. And spackle does dry faster, but it actually doesn't have the same bonding ability as heavier type of patch product. Spackle I'll typically use on trim or small holes, little tiny gouges, not more than a dime big. Things like that where the gap can be filled and it has a quick drying ability to harden really quickly and it's not going to cause any damage to the surface. Typically, if I'm using spackle or lightweight to heavyweight, lightweight is for lightweight projects to me. It's small things that need to be filled, tiny gaps that you expect to be able to sand clean and not see ever again. Whereas a heavyweight, it has a little bit more strengthening and bonding ability. It takes a little bit longer to dry, but that curing process is what makes its ability to stay much like the drywall is rather than, be forced through. Once the spackle is dry, I would then sand the surface, and I'd probably use something, depending on the surface, if it's a smooth texture, we're using 220 to 180, no more than that, to get it nice and smooth, and then I prime that surface and then paint that surface. If I'm going to fill a larger hole, depending on the size, typically above 3 inches or wider than 3 inches in diameter, I will apply a patch to that, that repair, and then I will spackle over it with a heavier spackle, not the lightweight stuff.
Personally, I love dry decks. because you can tell at a glance if that thing is ready to sand or not. And that is beautiful. When you're on a job site, if you're experienced, you are rotating between activities. Sometimes you're rotating same activities in different spaces. But seeing at a glance whether something is ready to be hit with a sanding sponge or a sanding pole, that's a huge advantage, because you can keep doing other things until you see that that product is ready to be sanded. The other advantage is part and parcel of the beauty of the product, because if you try to sand a product that isn't ready to be sanded, you're going to ruin it, and you're going to go back to the tub and put more on. It just sets you back. If you put one of your junior guys on a pole sander, he's pole sanding walls that somebody else spackled 30 minutes ago, he may not recognize that that patch isn't, those spackle spots aren't ready to be sanded. He's just going to mow them down, and then you're going to be redoing it. It's a beautiful product. I love it. Very smart.
DAP's Fast Dry Spackle is a great product to use when you have big holes, because typically before you would have had to wait an extended period of time, sometimes come back the next day to fix a patch. With this Fast Dry Spackle, it's done in 15 minutes, 30 minutes. You're able to prime and paint this area, and it can be taken care of in the same day. DAP's Eclipse Patch is a great product because it makes repairing a medium to small hole very fast. All you have to do is apply the patch, kind of like vinyl. You spread it on with a putty knife, and then you remove the filament over it, and then you paint right over it with a primer and then a paint.
Thanks for watching. Do the usual, hit like, smash subscribe, be a friend. If you want more information, more resources, check it all out, paintmag.com.